Hey everyone, this is the All Star Hoop Talk Show with Shane,
And Ethan.
and we're a father son team, and we're just here to talk about basketball because we love everything basketball. And as far as we know, there's no other podcast or recordings out there with the name All Star Hoop Talk, so that's why we decided to use it. But tonight, we want to talk about the NBA playoffs because the final game of the NBA season happened today and the play-in tournament starts on Tuesday. Now, Ethan, he is a basketball genius. He knows anything and everything there is to know about basketball, about players, about the teams, and he can tell you about the Western Conference play-in tournaments and playoffs as it stands right now. So, Ethan, tell me what's going on with the playoffs. Who's going to be in the play-in tournament?
The Warriors, the Kings, the Pelicans, the Lakers,
And so, what happens if the Lakers win against the Pelicans like they did today?
then they would go up against Denver as the 7th seed.
Which, hopefully, Denver would knock them out right away in a 4-game sweep. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
I guess, yeah.
Now, what about the Pelicans? The Pelicans have been pretty good this season. Do you think that they're going to prevail against the Lakers?
Probably, but maybe not because the Lakers won against them today.
But do you think that that was just because the Pelicans were trying to save their players for a possible play-in tournament?
Yeah, it could have been that, but I'm not too sure.
Because the Pelicans have been pretty dominant this season. I mean, they started to fall out, obviously, and they fell into the play-in tournament. But they were pretty good all season long, weren't they?
Yes.
And what about the Lakers? They were just kind of surging towards the end, right?
Yeah, they used to be the 9th seed, but they climbed all the way back to the 8th seed.
Were they as low as the 10th seed? I can't remember.
They might have been at one time.
Okay. So the big thing for the Lakers is to be able to stay healthy because we know LeBron, I mean, he's great. He's been in the league for many years. He's getting older and injuries just abound. And with Anthony Davis, he's never played a full season since college, if he even played a full season in college. And so for them to stay healthy, that's going to be a key. Don't you agree?
Yeah, if they can stay healthy, maybe they can advance to the second round and beyond. But let's talk about the Kings and Warriors matchup now.
Perfect. Let's talk about them. Who do you think's going to win?
The Warriors are good, but this year they've fallen apart, and the Kings are definitely going to want that win, so I'm going to have to go with the Kings.
And when you say the Warriors have fallen apart, what makes you say that they've fallen apart?
Well, 2 years ago they won the championship, and then the year before that they dropped all the way down to the 6th seed, where they won against the Sacramento Kings as the 3 seed, but they got eliminated by the Lakers in the second round. This year, they fell all the way down to the 10th seed, just barely making it into the playoffs.
Right. And when you say 2 years ago, you mean last season, right?
No, last season the Nuggets won.
No, but I mean the last season, that's when the Warriors beat the Kings and then got knocked out later by the Lakers.
Oh, yes.
Right, not 2 years ago,
Yeah.
so it was last year.
Yes.
Okay, because 2 years ago is when they won their championship. Right. Okay. And, I mean, the Warriors seem to have some injuries too, and they've also had Draymond Green issues. I mean, he's a great player. He's very passionate. He just seems to have some trouble keeping his temper in check on the court, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's going to be an issue, or do you think he's been reformed enough to stay in check and hold himself together against the Kings?
That might be an issue because, once again, it's the playoffs, so everything's going to be at a higher stake.
That's true. So you think emotions are going to be running higher?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And so then on the Eastern Conference side, we got the Bulls versus Atlanta. What do you think about that?
I think the Bulls might win that one.
Why do you say that?
Well, I feel like Atlanta has gone under the radar this year, and as being someone from the West Conference, I haven't really heard from them, but the Bulls, I've heard about them, and with all that, I think they can pull off a win against the Hawks.
Well, and I'm getting his name wrong. I can picture his face, but Trae.
Yeah, Trae Young.
Trae Young. Thank you. For Atlanta, he's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And he, if I remember correctly, last year he helped take them to the playoffs. And do you think that he would be able to do the same thing again this year?
Yeah, I think he can, but I don't know if it's currently, but he had an injury this season, so.
What was his injury?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
No.
Was it a knee, an ankle, or anything, or do you remember?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay. And the Bulls look pretty good today. They won decisively. I don't remember off the top of my head who they played today. Do you recall?
No.
Okay. That's the problem with being in the Western Conference. We see the Eastern Conference, but we don't really pay attention to it until it gets closer to the finals. Mm-hmm. Okay. So then the other play-in tournament matchup we have is the 76ers versus the Heat. What do you think of that one?
Well, the Heat made it as an 8 seed last year all the way to the finals, but got eliminated by the Nuggets. So I think they have a pretty strong chance. But the 76ers, they have Joel Embiid and a lot of other good players. So I think it's going to be a tough matchup between the two teams.
Is Joel Embiid back? He was injured earlier this year. As he came back, I should say come back, into the possibility of coming off or just playing. He doesn't come off the bench. He's a starter for them. Is he available for them?
I'm pretty sure, but I'm not positive.
Okay. And I agree. I kind of had forgotten about Miami, being the 8th seed, fighting for, survival in the play-in tournament last year and making it far. They made it deep into the playoffs last year. And they are one of those teams that's very resilient and everything. And so we just came back from a Sacramento Kings game today, and when we saw them dominate the Portland Trailblazers, what did you think of that win?
I think it's good that they got the win because they could have advanced to the 8th seed if the Lakers had lost. But otherwise, the win, it doesn't mean too much because they would have been the 10th seed if they had lost, and that would have basically put them in the same position. And
right, but if they would have been a 10th seed, then that means Golden State Warriors would have had the home court advantage, correct?
Yes.
And so we would have been going to to San Francisco instead of them coming to us, correct?
Yes.
And do you think come Tuesday, April 16th, that the home court advantage with cowbells in hand at the Golden One Center will make a difference?
It might, but as we saw last year when the Warriors and the Kings faced off in the playoffs, the Kings won all the games at Golden State, but the Warriors won every single game in Sacramento.
That is a very good point. I had forgotten about that. The road teams were winning last year. I had forgotten about that. So do you think that's going to matter on Tuesday?
Yeah, I think the home court advantage it's going to play a big role in the matchup.
Do you think it's going to be the redemption game that many are calling it from last year?
Yeah, definitely.
Who do you think is going to have the upper hand?
I'll go with the Kings.
And why? Why? Because we've got Kevin Huerter injured, and we've got Malik Monk injured. Those are key players for the Kings, and you're still giving them the advantage. Granted, they've got home court, but why do you think that they're going to have the advantage?
Well, the Warriors, they've got Curry and a bunch of other players that are good.
When you say a bunch of other players, what are those other bunch of players?
Draymond Green, Chris Paul, Klay Thompson. I know I'm missing a few, but...
And those are great players. But Chris Paul, if I remember correctly, he's been injured a lot this year, hasn't he?
He has.
We maybe should have looked at this before we started, but I don't know. Is he available for the game on Tuesday? I think he is. I don't think he's been injured recently, correct?
Yeah.
And then, you got Klay Thompson, who's clutch, right there with Steph, and you got Draymond Green. Those are their core three, it seems like, that they've had for their, years of dominance with their championship runs. You think that those guys are going to come out for blood and seek a victory in Sacramento?
Definitely, because it's going to be whether their postseason continues or not. But like we were discussing earlier, if Draymond Green gets ejected at all, especially early in the game, that could be a big factor.
But he hasn't been ejected a lot since he got banned. Well, not banned. He got suspended for several games earlier in the year. And then he went to therapy and started to really work on his anger issues. And since then, I don't recall him getting suspended that much. Has he?
I don't know. He might have, but
or I should say ejected, because that's what we were talking about, is ejections. I don't know if he's gotten ejected that much since then. He may have maybe once or twice, because he got maybe double technicals or something in a game. But I don't think he's really been ejected that much since then, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah. But the thing with Draymond Green, he is very passionate. He is probably one of the most passionate players in the sport. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
And he is one of those guys, when it comes down to it, he's one of those guys you'd want on your team, because if you're his teammate, he has shown in the past, no matter what, he will come to bat for you. And he has gone up against some of the biggest players in the league to stand up for his teammates, right?
Yes.
So I've always been kind of a fan of him. He's very good and very passionate. And I think if he brings that fire and that passion to Tuesday's game, the Kings, they could be in a world of hurt, especially when they're out with no Kevin Huerter and no Malik Monk, which Malik Monk seems to be our passion guy coming off the bench. because when he comes in, oh my goodness, he brings so much fire, so much passion to the team, doesn't he?
Yeah, he definitely does.
And who do you think has been bringing that passion for the Kings since Malik's been out?
I would have to go with maybe Sabonis or.
But he's a starter. He's not bringing that same passion because he's a starter. I'm talking about somebody off the bench.
Keon Ellis.
Keon Ellis. But he's been starting recently because of Herder's injury.
Yeah, but if he were to come off the bench, he's a really valuable asset to the team.
He is. I was thinking the passion playmaker off the bench to replace Monk has been Davion Mitchell. What do you think of that?
Yeah, he's been doing a great job.
And what about him has brought you to say he's doing a great job?
He just comes in, he starts shooting threes, and he gets the fans excited, gets the teammates excited, and we can then crawl back and pull out a win.
And ring those cowbells, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you think we need to see the Kings doing on Tuesday night to win?
Get some rebounds.
Offensive or defensive?
Both.
That's good, yeah.
Also shut down some of their key players like Draymond, Curry, and Clay.
Out of those three, sometimes teams will double team a player to kind of shut that player down. Of those three, Curry, Thompson, and Draymond, which one do you think they need to double team the most?
Maybe Curry, because Draymond Green, he attacks down low, but if we can get in his mind early in the game, then we won't have to double team him. And Klay Thompson, he's been off recently, so I think there's no need to double team him unless he just is draining threes really rapidly.
Yeah, he can do that, can't he?
Yes.
He has set numerous 3-point records, hasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah. The guy is amazing. But all three of those are amazing guys. Mm-hmm. And we've gone to playoff games watching the Kings or the Warriors, play before too, and we saw them the last championship that they won in 2022, correct?
Yes.
And I mean, those three were on fire: Curry, Thompson, and Draymond, right?
Yes.
And so, what happens if the Kings can isolate, say, Curry, but then you still got Thompson and Draymond doing a phenomenal job and can pick apart the Kings? Do you think we can recover from that? Do you think we can still find a way to beat them?
Yeah, because I don't think their defense is too good, because Curry, Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, they're not really known for their defense. Draymond Green is, but other than that, out of those, you don't really have anyone else.
That's true. I mean, they may be good defensive players, but they're a lot better offensive players, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes you also need to have that defense, don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
And you're still wearing your Sabonis jersey right now. Do you think he will do damage on Tuesday?
Yeah, if he continues his double streak, which is like maybe 2-3 games right now, well, he has a triple double streak of 2 right now.
No, he didn't get a triple-double today.
Well,
he was 1 assist
yeah,
shy.
he almost did, and if he can perform like he did today at the Warriors game on Tuesday, then I think the Kings will definitely have a good chance at winning, maybe.
And Domantas was stellar today. He was coming out for blood. He was on fire. He had almost a triple-double before the fourth quarter even started, right?
Yeah.
And I think he had his double-double before the fourth quarter. Because I don't think he played in the fourth, did he?
No.
And so he seems to be on a mission to just win at all costs, because he is just going out there night after night and just playing with just all kinds of passion, getting as many rebounds as he can. And sometimes he's not about all the points he can get. As we saw today, he was dishing the ball. And when the Kings dish the ball and they have those assists and they're looking for the open man, they typically get wins, don't they?
Yeah.
And so do you think that will be a factor on Tuesday of passing the ball and rotating it and making sure they find the open man?
Yeah, they shouldn't just... If they see someone open, they should definitely pass the ball and not just try and get all the points themselves.
And what do you think about the Kings offense? Tell me what you think about it.
Usually they have a lead at the second and third quarter, but starting the fourth, they usually fall apart and the teams are able to come back and the Kings usually lose.
Well, they have a winning record this year, don't they?
Yes.
I guess when you say they come back and lose, that was primarily because they had the injuries of Herter and Malik, right?
Towards the end of the season, yeah.
But throughout the season, when we weren't worrying about injuries, we wouldn't just end it and fall apart in the second half, would we?
No, not typically.
Okay.
Maybe sometimes, but...
Sometimes. Our biggest struggle was back-to-back night games.
Yeah.
And so we don't have that problem on Tuesday, right?
No.
Because they just played today on Sunday, April 14th, and we got 2 days until April 16th, right?
Yep.
And so I think they're going to be rested. They're going to be at home. I think that's going to play a difference. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it'll definitely play a difference. But the Warriors won't want to lose either. They're going to try really, really hard. And I think it's going to be a game that will come down to the last possession.
Yeah. And that's the unfortunate part. The Warriors already have rings. They have 4?
Yeah, I think 4.
Just between Curry, Thompson, and Dre. Those guys have 4 rings. They've got the experience. They know what it's like to get to the playoffs. They know what it's like to put everything out there and win. For the Kings, all they've got is Harrison Barnes, who came from the Warriors and got his ring with them. Nobody else on the team has a ring. But we made it to the playoffs last year, and we went to game 7 of the first round. So do you think that that's going to make a difference?
Yeah, they're going to have a lot of playoff experience, and they're going to be used with all the experience with the fans and the pressure. So, but this time they're home, so I think they should be able to win.
Who do you want to win?
The Kings.
And so the Warriors, they have Steve Kerr. Mm-hmm. He was a phenomenal player when he played. He was kind of overshadowed by Michael Jordan, obviously, but he was a good player, and he's a phenomenal coach, and he was a mentor, and really brought up Mike Brown as an assistant coach to get to be where he's at now as the head coach for the Sacramento Kings. So what do you think of that? The two basically know each other really, really well. How do you think that's going to go?
Well, I think Mike Brown might use that to his advantage because he'll kind of know what Steve Kerr likes to use. And Steve Kerr, because he was the head coach, and he won't really know what Mike Brown would use a lot, rather than just seeing him as the head coach for the Kings.
But now Mike Brown has been the head coach for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And this is the second year the Kings have made it to the playoffs. Granted, this is the play-in to make it to the playoffs, but it's still the postseason. Mm-hmm. And so Steve Kerr has kind of been able to see what Mike Brown is doing. Do you think he's going to say, hey, look, he's doing the same things I've taught him, or he's doing something completely new, and able to kind of see that and use it and say, hey, with my core of Curry, Thompson, and Draymond, I can exploit what Mike Brown does with his starting lineup? Do you think that might be a possibility?
Yeah, I think that's definitely what Steve Kerr will try and do.
Yeah. Now, the Kings are kind of a younger team than the Warriors, correct?
Yeah.
So do you think the youth will prevail? Or do you think the experience with the Warriors will prevail?
Well, I want to say the youth because last year they got some playoff experience, and this year they're not younger than last year, but they're still young and they've got a lot of talent. But the Warriors, yeah, they've got experience, but they're getting older and they can't move as well. But they can still play really good, though.
That is true. That is true. And I mean, it's unfortunate with professional sports that you don't have a long time in the industry typically, whether it's Major League Baseball, football, basketball. Your career doesn't last that long because as you age, your body just wears down. Unless, you're kind of a freak like Tom Brady or LeBron James that is just awesome at what you do and you just continue to do really, really well for a long period of time, correct?
Yeah.
And so what do you think? Ultimately, who is going to win on Tuesday?
I think the Kings in the 9 and 10 battle. Then I think the Lakers in the 7 and 8. And then moving to the East, I think the Bulls and I think 76ers.
All right. So those are your predictions.
Yes.
All right. So we'll come back after the first round and we'll see what your predictions are.
Okay.
All right. All right. Well, that is all for today. Again, this is All-Star Hoop Talk with Shane
And Ethan.
And we look forward to having you guys back for more episodes. Thanks for listening.